episode is brought to you by Tambourine Spring Water. Visit tambourinSprings.com.au or call 0434 952 449 to order your water today. Tambourine Spring Water is a local business situated on Mount Tambourine. Their water is bottled at the source on their 163-meter deep privately owned spring. The spring provides access to a free-flowing underground stream, which is where their premium quality spring water comes from. It then goes through a very strict sediment and UV filtration process to ensure the final product remains both consistent and of brightest quality. It is then bottled and stored until it leaves for the client's home or office. Most water companies in Australia all cart their water from a contractor before being processed and then bottled, which leaves lots of room for contamination and foreign bodies entering the water. In Tambourine Springs, it's a matter of minutes from when the water is extracted from the spring into a bottle, which is then sealed and stored into a cool, dark environment. The spring water is naturally bacteria-free and passes all quality tests prior to filtration. Despite that, Tambourine Springs water have one of the strictest filtration systems, so there is no room for error when it comes to your drinking water. They do not add any chemicals whatsoever to the drinking water. The only thing the filters are doing is removing sand and sediments that comes naturally with the water. The three-stage system is there to ensure no bacteria have found its way into the water. When you purchase your water from Tambourine Spring Water, you know you will receive the best spring water Southeast Queensland has to offer from a local family on a mission to provide the best service and quality. Water companies are often blamed with a good reason for polluting the environment with plastic bottles. This is not the case with Tambourine Spring Water. Your water is delivered to your door in 50 or 20-liter bottles, and your used bottles are collected, disinfected and refilled again, so zero plastic waste goes into the environment. Me and my family are also using Tambourine Springs Water way before they decided to sponsor this podcast. By experience, once you drink real spring water for a while, you cannot drink from the sink anymore or any commercial waters from the supermarket because it smells bad and has bad taste. Ridiculously enough, in Australia you can mix 50% of the water with tap water and label and sell it as spring water. This is not the case with Tambourine Springs Water. I personally know the family who owns it, and I have been numerous times in their small factory to see my water being bottled straight from the spring after the filtration process. Majority of my team also purchase their drinking water from Tambourine Springs Water. Find out more at tambourinSprings.com.au or call 0434 952 449 to order your water today. Hi, and thank you for tuning in to the Vice podcast. I'm Seth, and in this episode I talk with Amatha Ier. Amatha is a BJ brown belt, and he is working to introduce BJ in his home country of Laos. You can follow Amatha Ier and his team or visit his gym at facebook.com/bj.laos. And I met Amatha and trained his gym while traveling in Laos years ago. Our talk get carried away to some traditional Lao wisdom and reveals some secret of the happiness of the Lao people. I hope you enjoy and learn from this episode as much as I did.
Why do we fight? To protect home and family. To preserve balance and bring harmony. For our kind, the true question is, what is worth fighting for? The Fight is All podcast.
Okay, we're on. First of all, thank you for taking the time. It was a long time trying to do that, even trying to record it on around the road while I was on trip in Laos. Where are you now, my friend?
Thank you for inviting me first. Now I'm in Laos, I'm in Vientiane, in my home. Last time when we tried to record, I was in the countryside, so it was a bit difficult, even if now we have a quite a good internet connection in Laos, and in countryside it's still difficult.
Oh, listen, like funny enough, the internet connection in Laos is better than internet connection in Australia.
It's not. It doesn't really.
It's serious because internet in Australia is very bad, and Australia is famous with that. Funny enough, there was two Australian guys who has the idea about internet, so it's all started from these two guys, right? Mm-hmm. But the thing is, because of the communication companies here very greedy, and they want to they don't want to apply with more modern technology, and still the internet here is transferred on copper cables. So we have like shitty internet compared to all over the world. It's just ridiculous. That's just like
Yeah,
off topic.
it doesn't surprise me because I did a bit of telecoms and IT when I was younger, and what appears to me is that all countries like Europe and Australia, they all have these copper cables that they had to had return investment. So all the development of Wi-Fi and no cable technology came quite late compared to emerging country where actually it's the best way because there's so much content in Laos that we will use Wi-Fi or how on no cable technology to use computer signals. I'm sorry, I'm a bit confused now. Now I want to
Yeah.
say that because the wireless technology. Well, that's the word I was looking for. Wireless technology. It's something that came very, very strong here for the past 6-7 years. And even we have fiber here in Vientiane. It came quite fast compared to France, where it took decades to have it.
Yeah, true. The thing is, like in those countries, it always comes back to the interest of these companies that like kind of dominating the market. So because they have kind of monopoly over the whatever they already done with these copper cables, and they don't really want to invest in like fiber cables and stuff. So they're trying not to push everyone down to keep their profits on whatever. We cannot fix that. Let's go. Let's talk sport.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you please tell me your story in the combat sports in jiu-jitsu in particular, and uh, kind of to introduce yourself and your combat sports story to the people who listen, because I know you, but many of the people who gonna listen that don't. So you have a quite interesting story, I believe.
I don't know. I think it's a classical story. I got beat up when I was younger, and I wanted to. Okay, let's start from the beginning. So my name is Amatha. I was born in France, but my parents are Lao. So I spent all my childhood, teenage, and young adulthood in France until I decided to come back in Laos in 2009. And before leaving France, when I was younger, I was much more playing, football and soccer, how we call it in America, football with my friends. And, sometimes the games can be rough. And one day we had a kind of big fight. And one of my friends I was with some of my friends. One of them was taken apart and was beaten by 4 guys. And I tried to come to help him, and I got beaten myself. And so I got traumatized, and needed to find a way to get out of this feeling, because people who never got beaten, some people who knows fight, they know it, but the first time you really got beaten, you can have a kind of psycho trauma. It's not really the physical trauma, because the body can heal if it's not really hurt bad. Sometimes it can be hurt bad, but it was not the case. But the psycho trauma was quite strong, and so I had to find a way to get out of it. And so I researched many sports. I tried many martial arts, many self-defense techniques, and that's how I came to jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu was not my first try. I think I tried many self-defense stuff.
I'm just gonna stop you there because I'm curious. What else you have tried before you actually find jiu-jitsu? Like which styles you went through, if you don't mind, just to go.
Yeah, I started with the Krav Maga first for 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
I've tried after also Penchak Silat, but I thought that Krav Maga was a bit more practical, so I took classes with a very famous teacher in France. His name is Richard Duyeb. He's one of the at the time was one of the highest ranks in Krav Maga in Europe. He was in the 90s also the trainer of the called the GIGN, which is the special force of the the National Gendarmerie in France. And so I took classes with him. And during one of the class, he was demonstrating ground techniques. And because he's a very nice guy, he's telling us that this kind of techniques were coming from jiu-jitsu. And so I was very interested by these techniques. And after that, I've looked for some clubs and some, in Paris who were teaching Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And at this time, there were not that much clubs teaching. There were one big was called Castbox, another one was called Sankuno, the Sankuno. And this is the one I enrolled in. I just went one time for a tryout. The first time I met François Laurent and David Pierlou, who are the founder, not the founder of the Sankuno because there are other people involved, but they were in charge of the jiu-jitsu section. And so I was, like every time when we come to a jiu-jitsu class for the first time, you get crushed, and you have two options: either you reject it because of your ego or because of other stuff, and you don't want to get back anymore, or either you love it and you want to learn the stuff and to understand what happened to you. And what happened to me, I got addicted to jiu-jitsu, and not only to jiu-jitsu because it was a multi-sport club. So at the same time, I kept training Krav Maga for a while, but at the same time was doing jiu-jitsu, judo, boxing, kickboxing, and pancras, which was, because MMA is not legal. It was not legal. Still, I think it's just legalized this year, but for a long time it was not legal, so we cannot call it MMA. We call it pancras at this time.
Well, pancras is actually, the traditional art that it comes from the Asian Olympics, from the Greeks.
Yeah.
The MMA and the original Olympics was called pancras, but many of the younger people don't know that back in the days, pancras as a rule set was very popular, and like some of the biggest stars at that time, like Bas Rutten and Frank and Ken Shamrock, they actually came from pancras rules. And they're very interesting rules, like you cannot hit the face with fist, only with open palm. But you can hit the body with fist, and you compete with shin guards, but no goals. Was very interesting rules, by the way. Like if people Google and you can still see like Bas Rutten fights. He was very good in pancras, and then he got into UFC after. But pancras was a very big network. Has really interesting fights at that time. I think even there was very interesting rules which comes from the pro wrestling. So I think in pancras, when you're on the ground, but you can grab the bottom rope because it was the fight was in the ring. If you can grab the bottom rope of the ring, they have to pick you up in standing again. So people was using that to escape submission. So for example, like if you're into a submission hold, but you grab the bottom rope, like they are not allowed to finish the submission. They have to pick you up and stand. It was a very interesting rule by the way at that time.
Kind of escape.
There was this escape button. So you call in submission, you grab the bottom rope, and they pick you up. Was very interesting rules at that time.
Okay, so this is how I started. To get back to the conversation, this is how I started jiu-jitsu. It was in 2005, I guess, something like this. I think I started Krav Maga in 2004, and after, kind of, 2004, 2005, I started jiu-jitsu. And since then, well, at the beginning, I was training a lot. I was training something like 6 days a week. Been to all the classes available. I was really enjoying all this.
And how the destiny makes it twist, and you become the first guy who introduced Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to Laos.
This is after it comes to my personal story. In fact, that.
Keep going with the story. I'm very interested by the story, by the way.
Okay, but in fact, my parents, as I told you, are coming from Laos. They met in France. They married. They got 2 kids. When it's when you're in Laos, not now anymore, but before. It's interesting. I can tell this story to the public because in Laos, for people, a lot of people who can understand English, maybe they would find it interesting. For a long time, when I was coming in Laos, people from Laos were thinking that when you're coming from abroad, you had from France, you had a rich life and you had everything that. In a way, it's true because, of course, France is not Laos; it's a developed country. But in another way, when when you're coming from a country like Laos and you start a new life in France, life can be very tough. And my parents were not, even if they had, they studied and we didn't have, kind of rich life. We are quite poor. And my parents had four kids. And in the 90s, my dad decided to go back to Laos because his mother was dying. In fact, she was sick. And he decided that he was very close to his mother, and he wanted to go back and say goodbye to her. And so he left France. It was, I think, in 92 or 94. I was still a teenager. The thing is that he never came back. He never came back to France. So he left my mother alone, raising four kids, and I was very traumatized by this. I was. Not only for me because I was already a teenager, but I was very worried for my little sister. She was only 6 years old, and I couldn't really understand how a dad could leave a little girl like this. I was very angry with him, and that's what this is what changed my destiny because I needed. I have a lot of things to say about my teenagehood, but maybe it's not the right place, unless you really want me to tell you. But
man, like feel free, it's just open conversation. If you like, if you wanna express it, just go for it. Like don't hold yourself. We don't need to be strict to some subject or something. We can talk for anything. So if you feel like just go for it, man. It's up to you.
Okay. But I was saying that. Because I was, very angry. It impacted not only me but my family because I was a very upset, and I entered kind of a deep depression. In fact, a very deep depression for several years, which led me to quit school. I quit school. I was 16 something. I decided to quit school. And it impacted all my family. My brothers and sisters suffered a lot from it. They still, I think they still have grieves against me for this time, even if they understand the situation. But anyway, so I overcome this, this time. And when I became a young adult, I decided that I wanted to confront my dad, and this is how I decided to go back to Laos in 2003 to meet my dad. In fact, and to understand, to hear his version. Why did he left his family? And this is how I came to Laos, and that I discovered that my family was not only 6 people. It was all these people I've never met. My grandparents, my uncles, my aunties, my cousins, and it was a very, very weird feeling. I can even tell you a story because it was very funny. When I decided to go back to Laos, I wanted to go by myself, and I didn't want anyone to know. And I told my mom just to write the address of my grandmother on the paper, for me to show to the tuk-tuk driver or something, and to be able to go there by myself. So I came in the morning across the bridge, and I met a tuk-tuk driver, show him the paper. It happened that this tuk-tuk driver was my uncle. I didn't know at the time, but he was my uncle. So he brought me to my grandmother's house, and she was sitting outside the porch. At this time, she was already half blind because she was losing her sight. Yeah, sorry, I'm a bit emotional because. Not because she passed away, but she stand up and she hugged me, like if she knew who I was. But actually she knew who I was because my mother was worried, and she told my grandmother I was coming. but I didn't know that she knew who I was. So when I arrived this home, I saw this old lady, and she started to cry when she saw me, and she hugged me.
Mm.
So it was very, very emotional time, and that's how I was introduced to Laos, and I discovered the country, I discovered the people, and it was not yet for me the time to come and live here. It was just the time for me to see my dad and to try to know him, and to try to know his reasons.
Mm. Did you manage to make peace with your dad and to sort it out what he was actually making
Yeah,
you
actually we
angry?
did. Of course we did. I took the time. I took time to listen to him. I took the time to know him, and that's why also I decided to come back to Laos regularly, because I wanted to spend time with him. And so every year, every couple of years, I was coming to Laos to see my family and to see him, to talk with him, to spend time with him, and until I decided that maybe it was time for me. It's not. It was not the main reason why I decided to go back to Laos. It was I was entering my 30s. All my friends started to get married, to get family, and I was single, and I was thinking, yes, if I want to visit the world, I wanted to visit the world. Maybe I should start by my roots. And since I was single and I had no attach, I said, oh, okay, let's go to Laos and see what will happen there. So I just packed my stuff, and I had not much, so I gave away mostly what my belongings, and which were not much, and I just packed my guitar, my laptop, and jumped into the plane and arrived in Laos. So
And you
this is what
started the Ronin lifestyle. You know what Ronin is? This traveling samurai lifestyle.
It
Well,
was it was not linked to jiu-jitsu first, because I just wanted to to explore my roots, to know myself better, because in a way I never felt myself like I was at the right place when I was in France. Laos a bit, right? Because you spent time there, and it's where we met. But when I was at high school, for example, I was late every day, and I was punished every end of the week because I was coming late every day. And when I arrived in Laos, when I knew Laos, when I discovered Laos, I realized that yeah, I'm Lao. All these people don't care about time, and I was kind of like that. And I felt very myself home. When people don't look at their watch, they just live their life, and you know, and yeah, I really felt home, in Laos, and I still feel
well,
home in Laos.
in my country we have a saying like for people who don't have a watch,
Mm.
that's happy people.
Yeah, yeah,
and
it's a good saying.
and from my time in Laos, to be honest, I've never seen so much happy people in one place. Like Lao people are just happy. Like,
Yeah.
and since I came back from there in Australia, and I just find hard time to explain to people how happy Lao people are, because uh, compared to the lifestyle in Australia, Lao people have nothing, practically nothing material. There's just like everything most of the belongings of everyone is things that you can produce by your hands.
Mm.
Like, so that's why there's no stealing though, because no one steals nothing, because pretty much like everything you have you can make it yourself, like from the Lao people. But in the same time, I've never seen so happy people in Laos are just happy, like just free and happy. And yeah, that's one of the things that I remember, this old saying from my country, like, oh, if you don't have a watch, you're a happy person. So yeah, that fits to my impression for my wife in Laos as well.
Yeah, I can tell you a very marking story that I experienced here in Laos. It was 3 years ago, 5, 6 years ago. I was living in a house, in an old Laos house, wooden house. I don't know how you say in English, but on pilotis. When the house is built
Yeah,
higher
on
than
on
the ground.
on 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 piles.
Yeah,
That's
Yeah, yeah.
Laos, yeah.
And actually, where my neighbor was a farmer. He has a small rice field, and he was growing rice. And in one year, we had a drought. Water came everywhere. I could see him from my house, which was a bit higher. From a balcony, seeing his house totally flooded. He was moving his furniture out. He was moving his rice pack out. He was moving all his stuff out. And in any other country, it would be dramatic. It would be all the people would be sad and crying and stuff, and they were just moving the thing out, to dry places. And when they moved everything out, they were still something like 120 meters high in the field in his house. When everything was out from his house, he took a net out from his house and he started fishing. And this is how people are,
That's so loud.
That's so loud, They won't
so
complain.
loud, yeah.
They're just taking the life. They're just taking what's happening now. It can be a drama for people with drama. For them, it's just life. Okay,
Yeah.
my house is flooded. What can I do? Okay, I will take my stuff out because I don't want them to be damaged when they're out. What I do? Okay, let's start to take out the opportunity. Take advantage of it. Okay, now I could try to catch fish. And it is the kind of life lesson that you only can see in this kind of countries. You're here, you feel sad for them, and they just don't feel sad. They don't feel sad for themselves. They just keep moving on.
To be honest, the thing is, like, when you travel, you have to understand the place where you are. You need that's what I discovered by my traveling. You need more than 2 months, because for the first 2 months when you're on the place, you walk with the eyes of tourists. Everything looks nice and exotic or like interesting. But after you live more than 2 months somewhere, you start to understand the people, because you have to see the travels, you have to see how they live. So the thing is, with my year living in Indochina and mostly in Laos, what I find out, I stopped. I was at the end of so like in the beginning of my stay there, I was kind of like I was kind of like compassionate with the people there. Kind of was sorry for the people there, because they don't have much, and like they look, they're struggling. But at the end of it, I was sorry for the Western people, because at the end of my stay of the year that I spent working in Laos, I understand that the people in the West, they're so trapped in these material things that they can never reach the happiness that Lao people have, and stuff like this that you just say. So it was very funny, like it's like how to say, it's like a trip that my mind did. So in the beginning of my stay in Laos, I was sorry for the Lao people, and when I was leaving, I was sorry for the Western people because they will never understand this way of happiness that the Lao people have.
Yeah, that's true, and that's why like you say, you need to stay long enough in a country to try to get a glimpse of it. Even after 10 years, I'm still learning about our people in the different places. But that's true that don't just one travel will not be enough. You need to actually need to because when you're traveling to a country, you want to see everything. You want to, and you're spending your time running around, try to follow your guides, or try to find where to go to the places where this picture was taken. But when you've done all this, you can take time for yourself and trying to settle down and to observe. Just I won't say get bored, because it's not really getting bored, but just take your time to contemplate where you are, and it is starting now that you're starting this point that you really can see what's happening around you in your everyday life, and not aiming for a new touristic attraction.
Absolutely, yeah. That's what I say. Like, because 2 months only, you're just looking on touristic attraction. You just look on the fun stuff, like on this thing. But you're still with the eyes of tourists. Everything looks cool and exotic, or like interesting. But to see how people live, and to have like kind of to get kind of sense, like how the life is then, the culture and everything. You need to stay a bit longer. That's what I find out with my trips.
Yeah, And you know what I like to say to people coming to Laos, because now I have a lot of friends, and I did also a lot of not a lot, but a bit of tourism when I was starting my life in Laos, and Laos is not a country like Thailand or Vietnam where they have people, they have the beach, they have a lot of this amazing, or Cambodia, this amazing site when people know around the world. Laos, there's not much actually in Laos, that would attract mass tourism. And I always tell people coming, okay, first you come to Laos, and you see that maybe there's not much interest compared to other countries around. But I will tell you that the day you will leave Laos, you will be sad and you won't understand why. And it happens all the time. People come, they feel, they're curious about the country, they don't know what's happening, they're taking their time, they're meeting people, they're enjoying their life, and after when they leave Laos, they feel sad, and sometimes very sad. I heard some of my friends
Well,
got back in France and
I'll tell
had
you
a
why.
6 months depression.
I'll tell you why, because Laos is very unique because I think it's the only Asian country that doesn't have like access to the sea, and because of this, it's kind of kept in a shell. So the thing is like life in Laos is kind of kept like in good and bad way as well, but it's kept like years behind. So it's kind of hold back, but in the same time it's very unique because it's not a very popular touristic place. So it's probably the last spots on earth where you can actually feel the local culture because there's not so much tourists, not so much foreign influence yet, and it's very unique. You can actually feel the culture of the people because in Thailand there's so much Western stuff. You don't. It's yeah. It has like this Thai swing and everything, but at the same time you feel too much Western things. You know what I mean? While in Laos it's very unique. It's very Asian, very Lao. It's very unique as a culture's experience. So that's why you kind of when you live there, when you leave from there, you kind of you want this place to be preserved as it is, as a unique place because it's just very cultural, very unique with its own culture. It's very different. Like it's very hard to explain, but you probably understand me. Other people won't.
Yeah, it's very difficult to understand. Sadly, it's changing, but we cannot change. Stop evolution now.
No, of course, but I think that's why you're sorry when you're leaving Laos because part of you wants Laos to develop and to get better. Part of you wants it to stay in that way just because it's kind of cool being that way. You know what I mean? It's just
That's true.
it's mixed feelings when you're living in Laos. At least that's how I felt as a complete foreigner. For my
Yeah,
time
so
there.
you felt it also. So
Yeah, yeah.
what I'm saying is very true then.
So you have these battling of feelings. You want Laos to do good and to develop, but at the same time you want it to preserve and to stay as it is. So you kind of have mixed feelings. You don't know what is right, what is wrong, but you just feel like these battle of feelings inside you. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And there's also this attachment to people that you have. People are
Yes, yes.
are
People are
very
very
open.
unique and
Yeah.
very open. Yeah, I always explain these stories. You cannot die by hunger in Laos because everyone is like when you see foreign, oh, come eat with us, come eat with us, come eat with us. And because I like to explore, when I'm in the city or in the village, I like just to walk around by myself, just to walk. And you cannot walk 50 minutes because from this house they oh come eat with us, come with us. You walk up 10 minutes for the other house. Oh, come eat with us, come eat with us. You cannot walk. Everyone is like wants to feed you. It's just so easy. You cannot die by hunger if you're a foreigner there. People are so open, so easy to. Everyone is just approaching and invites you. It's really
Yeah.
different.
Yeah, it's something that there's still a real social tissue in Laos. I remember one time I was leaving my office quite late. It was something like 9 or 9:30, and at this time I was smoking. Now I quit smoking, but I was just stopping because I didn't have any lighter on me, and I stopped at a repair shop, motorbike repair shop, and to ask for lighter. And it just ended up spending all the until midnight with him and having fun with him, and the guy that just met to ask fire. And I don't think it happened in much countries. You just meet someone for the first time and you become friends and you spend 3 4 hours together like this. And it's what I really
Well,
like.
well, it hardly happens in the other place because people all in a rush. What Lao people they own their time. They don't rush for
Exactly,
nowhere.
exactly. They own their time. It's very true.
Let's bring the conversation back to jiu-jitsu. How you decide to actually to start teaching jiu-jitsu in Laos?
Actually, I wanted to start from the beginning. I tried to teach when I arrived in 2009, but actually, if you see the timeline in 2009, Jiu-Jitsu was still something that was confidential, even in France. You know, it was still confidential. Now it's big and in many Western countries big. But imagine how it was in 2000 in Southeast Asia. There was nothing. I did some research when I arrived, and I thought the only thing only club, the only gym I found was in Phuket, and I think the teacher was a blue belt. So from my research at this time, there were nothing except this gym in Phuket, and the teacher was just a blue belt. So, and I met a few guys here, and we decided to have a small group. One of the guy was a purple belt from America. He was here for a short time, but we used to train a bit together, and we had a small group. But at the end, it was at my very beginning in Laos, and I haven't settled down yet. I didn't had a real job yet. I didn't know, I was still building my life, so it was not my priority, and I couldn't live by teaching because nobody knew jiu-jitsu. Nobody would have been interested in jiu-jitsu. So what I did at this time is I just kept training by myself first, and also by training with the judo people, the judo guys, for 1 year, 1 year and a half, something like this. And I was building a new life, And so jiu-jitsu was not my first priority because I couldn't make a living from it. But I could. What I managed to do is try to. Okay, if I cannot train, I don't have regular partners. I will just work on my fundamentals, and it's what I did. For the first years, just work on fundamental moves. That's why, if you ask my students, they will tell you that I'm very very attached and very focused on fundamentals because actually it what helped me to keep my jiu-jitsu alive. I no fancy move, no YouTube at this time. I just doing fundamentals move on the ground, shrimps and stuff, etc.
Yeah, I like to say this to my students. You can never be good enough not to do fundamentals. So I think you can never be wrong doing fundamentals.
Yeah, that's true. And it in the first time I came back in France was in 2014 because my sister because like I like to say to my friends, it's half a joke, but it's a joke, but it's half a joke. But I didn't have the money to buy a plane ticket. So things started to get well and I could travel, and my sister at this time, my little sister had a baby, so I decided to go back to France, and I we went back to my old jiu-jitsu friends, and one of my friends at this time was a brown belt. Now he's black belt, but I was running with him, and I told him, yes, it's my first real jiu-jitsu class in 5 years. He looked at me, really? You still have your base, you still have and yeah, I was happy because even if, of course, I didn't have all the game back and all the techniques, but my base was still here, and it's because I just spent my time doing fundamentals, just working on my body shape and doing this kind of stuff.
So what belt you at the moment? I think you get promoted since the time we have seen each other in Laos. That was
Yeah,
2016. So
yeah, I got my brown belt last February.
yeah, I think that was recent. So congrats to that.
Thank you very much. So yeah, I got back into my old sensei, David Piaui, the one who gave me my blue and my purple belts. And what's also a nice story about when I decided to move back to Laos, I didn't tell anyone. Only a couple of friends my intimate friends who knew that I was leaving France because it was difficult. It was sad. I was leaving. Like dying, when you decide to leave everything behind, leave your friends, your family behind. I really felt like it was my first time dying, and it's very important because it's when you feel this that you can, you have another experience in life. I think it's important to feel these kind of things. And actually, I was in my what we call now the blue belt blues. I was blue belt at this time, and I wasn't sure where I was going. At this time, I was also spending a lot of time out of jiu-jitsu because I was starting to take salsa classes. So it became, it's funny.
That's very Jean-Claude Van Damme thing.
Yeah, no, but
dancing and fighting.
No, that's true. I was dancing a lot, and first I was going for a class, then two, then three, and at this time this year I spent maybe more time dancing than learning jiu-jitsu. and so my sensei heard that I was leaving, and he told me, I want you to come this week, at least 3 times this week. Okay, let's go. And the day before I was leaving to Laos, I was leaving on a Saturday morning. I think it was on 23rd of March 2009. The Friday night, he gave me my pepper belt, and I was very surprised because I didn't feel that I was deserving it. I was not that much present at the class for the past year. I was not sure I had the level, and I told him, David, I'm not sure that I deserve it. He told me, you can put it in a frame if you want, but you spend enough time on the mat. Do whatever you want with this belt, something like this. So I was very touched. I took my belt and put it in my backpack, and the next day I was leaving to Laos. And it's important. It's very important for me. It's something that I think helped me to keep going with jiu-jitsu, because if I was not promoted, maybe I wouldn't have the confidence to keep going, to keep training, or to start teaching.
Well, I think your teacher saw the potential in you, and he did the right thing by keeping on the path of jiu-jitsu with promoting you, because he know you develop and you do good things. So sometimes as a coach, you and a teacher, sometimes you have this feeling that like some people deserve something because of things that they were gonna do in the future. So I think he got this feeling with you, and he did the right thing.
Yeah, now I'm sure I did the right thing. This time I was not sure, but now I understand that coaches and professors and senseis, they've been trained before, a long time before you, so they know things that you don't know yet. And now that I'm coaching, I realize it. Sometimes I see my students, and I say, one time you understand, I can tell you, maybe you get it, maybe won't get it now, but sometimes you understand. And now. I think if he hadn't give me his trust at this time, maybe I wouldn't trust myself, and maybe I wouldn't kept going and kept training and opening my gym and teaching now. So it's very important. I think it was a key moment in my jiu-jitsu life. Maybe if he didn't trust me enough to give me my purple belt, maybe I would have stopped jiu-jitsu like many others in the world. They stop at the blue belt, and they're happy with that, and they move on and they do something else.
Well, I was looking at statistics recently. Actually, like it was big percentage, 90-something% actually quit jiu-jitsu on blue belt.
Yeah, it's big. Yeah.
It's most people actually give up training on blue belt, which is somewhere about their second year. People just give up, and the ones who continue actually who become good, but most people just train for like 1-2 years, and which is practically getting your blue belt, and then they just give up. Like that's actually like what's the kind of tipping point if you really will become good into the sport, in the art, or you will be just become like just mediocre like everyone else. So yeah, it's strange, but apparently that's how it works for majority of the people. They just quit on their second year of training.
But what I see, how I see it now is that, like I told you, it was in your life you need to die many times, not to die for real, but to restart. You know, and when you're white belt, you have this shiny goal. You know, and you want to achieve. You work hard, and finally you reach it. And what else? You know, now you got your blue belt. You did all the work for that, but after you just realize that it was not a goal. It was just a step, a milestone. But it was just a step, and now you have to start to get back to work and to work even more. And sometimes people can be discouraged from it. And it's also what I like in jiu-jitsu. It's like, you know, it's like in life, you know, there's nothing that's definite, you know, it's just step after step. And what makes you successful is how you overcome the obstacles, you know, what you do when you reach your goals, when you know what you do when you fail, when you're failing reaching your goals, you know. And I think that it also shows you help you to know yourself.
But it's the same in life, isn't it? Just in the sport, it's a bit more simple, and but the lessons you learn in sport and in jiu-jitsu, it actually the same principles you apply in life when you fail. Like it's you just have to realize not the end of the world. You just just find solution or just keep going, and that's how you solve things. That's
Yeah.
what's actually like the sport is teaching in a more simple way though, but the principle is the same.
Yeah, yeah. At the end, the you know, it's only a thing that will make you successful in life or in jiu-jitsu is you know, grinding. You know, just stay on the mat. Even sometimes you're happy, sometimes you're not happy, sometimes you want to, sometimes you don't want to, but you just have to keep going. Life is easy for no one. You have highs, you have lows, but you have to keep going. And it's same for jiu-jitsu.
Absolutely. How many people you have in the group at the moment? I saw a picture recently. I see it's growing.
Yeah, it's growing, but there's a lot of variation. I think that I would say a dozen of people, but more. Some people are not coming less, as regularly as I would. And now I'm trying to have to expose jiu-jitsu to the Lao judo team because they asked me to teach at the Budo Center. Now they're preparing the SEA Games, so they're a bit tired after the judo training. But I have high hopes that when the SEA Games will be over, some of the judo team will come and train with us. Now the coach of the judo team is training with us after the training. I come to the judo train with him. I get smashed. It's very painful, but it's really good for me. And at the end of the judo session, the Japanese coach come and train with us, and I'm very happy that we have this opportunity to exchange on this level.
Yeah, I saw pictures and videos in your Facebook. They're traveling, training with this high-level Japanese judo coach, which
Yeah.
is probably like the best judo you can get is from Japanese coach. Yeah. So tell me more about this guy. He looks very good and very knowledgeable about judo.
Yeah, actually, in fact, he's the assistant of the main sensei, Sensei Kamichi, excuse me, who because Lao Judo is very linked to the Kodokan, and every 2 years or so they're sending there's a turnover. They're sending high level judo senseis to Laos. You know, in this year we have Sensei Kamichi. And what made the link is that my friend, one of my very good friend from France, Hakim Jabali, just visited me a couple of weeks ago. We were talking about this a long time ago, but he made it. He came to Laos, and he's black belt in judo and jiu-jitsu. He's a two-time world champion in jiu-jitsu, in a blue belt in purple belt, heavyweight, and he's also a first division fighter in France in judo, so a very high level fighter. And the day we are doing a seminar for the judo people, with him at the Budo Center. And the same day, these guys they came. They just coming from Japan, and so they attended. They just watched attended to the seminar, not attended to the seminar, but watched from the side because they were just out of the plane. And after they proposed us to have dinner together with Hakim and with me and with Yohei, his assistant, his coach assistant. And so we had a very good time. And I posted some video on my Facebook if you want to see. But you see the Sensei Kamichi doing a private class to Hakim.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that video. Just explain the grips and
yeah,
taking off the bars of neck was actually a really good move. I saw that.
Yeah. And he was explaining us his story, and his incredible story, how he stole his wife in Ireland in Japan. He's an incredible guy, and he showed us his secret notebook when he's explaining all these techniques and the way he's training, the way it was very interesting. I couldn't get everything because he only speaks Japanese, and Yohei can speak English and Japanese, but translation is always difficult. But we had a good time, and like I related it in my in my Facebook, and I had now I'm spending 10 years in Laos and a lot of years trying to develop jiu-jitsu, and I was asking him some advice. How can I improve also my relationship with the judo people, because it was a tense from a time. Now it's better because now they understand that we can work together, but for a time it was a bit tense at the early stage of my time in Laos when I was training with them. And he listened to me carefully, and after he just replied me, yes, you have three things to do. The first thing is to train as hard as you can. The second thing after training is to take a good shower. And the third thing you have to do is to relax after the shower. So I was very confused, and I don't want to get him upset or to okay, thank you, master, thank you, sensei. But I was very, very confused. And when I got back home with Hakim, and I told him, I was asking sensei about this, and he told me this. And Hakim, well, for him, it was very clear. Yeah, he said, yeah, sensei is right. I said, what do you mean? When is right? I have to take shower and stuff. If we're in a martial art world, and if you want people to listen to you, people to trust you, people to, you have to be stronger. All you have to do is train hard and beat them up, beat everyone up. So I said, yeah, it's easy for you, and that's why after that, but after I realized that, in a way, it's simple. If I really want to develop jiu-jitsu, I need to be credible, when people need to believe me, not by my talk, not with my mouth, but with what I'm doing on the mats. And so that's how I decided to get back on the judo training with them, to improve my conditioning, because their conditioning is so good. When we train with them, even if they're not yet knowledgeable about ground fights, they had such pressure, they had such stamina, and it's only a good thing for me to be able to get back training with them. And I was very welcome. Yohei and Sensei Kamichi, they just welcomed me and kept coming and train with us. And I said the same. After training, just come with us, train jiu-jitsu with us, and it's what's happening now. And we have I really feel that we have this kind of very good connection, and I'm very hoping that it will lead, allow jiu-jitsu a step forward, and I'm very confident in that.
Awesome. That's a very good lesson. Very, very simple but very wise at the same time. So, as a coach, and for every coach is different, because coaching is kind of like finding itself. It's like expression to yourself. Like, from coaching point of view, which part of coaching you consider most important?
Which part of coaching?
Yeah.
I think the personal aspect is very important. You need to know your students, and you need to know yourself, and you need to make the connection. In fact, I think the most difficult part in coaching is to make a good connection. You need trust, and trust has to be you need to have reciprocity. That it's not me showing and knowing everything. It's very wrong. I don't know everything. I'm very far from it. and I don't want them to think that I know everything, because sometimes they ask you and then they look at you like you're on a pedestal because you have more experience. But it's something that I don't want people, my students, to believe. It's not the way I'm coaching. I want to have a connection to be able to trust each other, because we're doing martial arts where actually we're putting our lives in our partner's hand. If my student's choking me, he's not releasing, I'm dying. The same. If I'm choking someone, I'm not releasing, he's dying. So we need to have this very deep connection and very deep trust to be able to put your life into your training partner's hands. And that's why the connection and trust are very important. It's what I try to develop first. And I would say that I wouldn't coach anyone I wouldn't trust. For me, it's quite clear. If I'm meeting someone someday and I cannot make a connection of trust, then I don't think I will have him as a student. I have the choice. If I have the choice, I wouldn't take it.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Is Castbox still training?
Of course, he's still training. He's still beating everyone up. But he had a good listen, because now that we are training with Yohei and when Hakim came, because Castbox, people who don't know him, is a I don't say my student, because I wouldn't consider him my student. It's my training partner that is here for 3-4 years, 3 years, I guess, and one more here. And he's from Chechnya. And people never met Chechen people. They're just natural. You know them because you're coming from the same region. But the natural born fighters. They're natural born fighters, and they're real killers. But it was good for him to get smashed by Hakim, and yeah, because it's good. When you're on the top, sometimes you need to get someone to humble you, because it will push you to move forward. And it's difficult for Castbox to find to want someone to smash him. Even me, I don't smash him. And it's good for him now. I think it's improving. It's improving because he got he saw some of his weaknesses working with Hakim and working with Yohei, and he's improving day after day.
Good. Send him my regards. He's a cool guy.
Yeah, he's a very nice guy. I'm very happy to have him here. I'm happy that he can stay one more year, because at first he was planning to leave in September, but he will stay until June. So I'm very happy to have him for one more year.
Very good. Do you guys did any competitions already from your team?
No, from Lao people, no. From Lao team, no, not yet. I want maybe this year to have people involved in competition. I guess I have one of our students who's very interested, and we'll try to make it this year. For myself, yes, I want to get back to competition. I did the one of the Paris competition recently, just before coming back to Laos, and my Paris competition was in Hanoi last summer. But I'm not a big competitor, and I think that now it's time to get back to competition, because there's things I need to learn from competition. And at first, my first thought about competition was that because I'm 42, 40, it will be 43 this year. And I was thinking that, okay, I will probably have my black belt soon. And what is the best way for me to learn with the best people would be probably in competition, because people at the black belt level, of my age, they have decades of experience, And I was thinking, yeah, if I'm doing competition, when I will be a black belt with these kind of people, I have a lot of things to learn. So that's why I thought about going back to competition. But in this view, I started just now, and I realized that as a brown belt, I was surprised that physically I was, I think in last competition I felt above people of my age and my category, and I realized that yes, in fact, living in Laos 10 years, and because I didn't compete much when I was younger, my body is quite preserved. You know, I didn't push too hard when I was younger, so my body is quite preserved. My life in Laos allows me, have good, good rest and good food and stuff. And I'm quite in good shape, except that I'm a bit overweight, but I'm working on it. And I was thinking, yes, maybe if I can reduce my weight, and since also I have quite long experience in jiu-jitsu, now it's my 15 years of jiu-jitsu. People are a brown belt probably have less experience than me, I guess, because of my story. I was thinking, yeah, maybe try to compete as brown belt instead of waiting for black belt. Maybe try to compete as a brown belt, get some experience, and see what if I can make something. Because my physical abilities are good. My experience is wide. So now I'm trying to this year I want to compete more on a personal level, but at the same time it's not only on a personal level. I mean that everything I can make as a jiu-jitsu head coach, as a fighter athlete, but also as a jiu-jitsu head coach in Laos will help me to bring people in to convince people from Laos that maybe they can have something to learn from me, and maybe try to make the jiu-jitsu shine over other disciplines, because now a lot of people are much more interested into other kind of martial art, taekwondo or Muay Thai or Muay Lao or I don't know. I'm not sure yet they're convinced about jiu-jitsu, and I think it's my job, it's my work to try to convince them about the efficiency of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, the thing in Laos is like for people who don't know, like the traditional fighting art of Laos is Muay Lao, which is as a style is very similar as Muay Thai. It's a striking style. It's kind of like kickboxing Muay Thai style of fighting. So it's a bit away from the grappling arts. People in this area, I think comprehend it as fighting most, kicking and punching than actually grappling. So yeah, I believe, like introducing jiu-jitsu there means this, kind of just, resistant in the people's mind that, like grappling is also a way of fighting, not only punching and kicking. So that's something it's kind of, like works differently in the culture there.
Yeah, I think it's one of the major obstacles. Asian people in general, Lao people in particular, they don't really enjoy close contact, and we're very close in jiu-jitsu. We're sticking to each other. They don't like to have people sweating on them or touching each other that closely. And even I had to talk with one of my very, very close friend, my very good friend, last week. I want her to do jiu-jitsu, and she said, no way, I don't want to. There's no way I want to smell someone else's butt. It was very frank from her, but actually it's probably what a lot of people feel, They feel that when they see us that we're smelling each other's butt. And I cannot, I cannot stop laughing because it's laughable, but at the same time, it's one of the difficulty that people have to overcome, in their mind, because at the end, it's not what we're doing,
Yeah, I think you're doing a good job for promoting the art back there in Laos, and you're doing the right thing, and I'm pretty sure that you'll be successful in that. And I'm really proud to call him my friend, and maybe one day we might meet each other again. So I will go for normally the final question I give in this podcast. From your perspective, what is worth fighting for?
What is worth fighting for? People you love, but mainly, I guess, the new generation. For me, we live in a very troubled world. and we cannot fix it. We cannot heal it. It's too late for us. But the only thing we can do is prepare the next generation to make the work. It's not very nice to give them the work, but we don't have the choice. All we can do is prepare. It's preparing them to handle all the challenges that they will have to face. And that's why also I'm so a lot of people here, all my close friends, don't understand why I'm so attached in European Jiu-Jitsu, because it's it's very small. It's not doesn't make much money, but I think that in Jiu-Jitsu is an incredible a tool for education tool, and I think that if we can introduce Jiu-Jitsu to young kids, it will help them to structure themselves. They help them to have confidence, help them to to develop qualities that school wouldn't develop or normal education wouldn't develop. So for me, Jiu-Jitsu is an incredible educational tool, and it is my aim is to use Jiu-Jitsu as an educational tool to help preparing the next generation to take over, because we will need them, and the challenges they will have to face each way bigger than what we're facing now. Now I think that we're in the last generation of human beings who can really enjoy the world. I'm not sure it will be the same for the next or the following generation. And so all I want to do is to try to give my best to try to prepare them for these challenges.
Thank you, my brother. You're a great man. I really love you, and thank you for whatever you're doing. And I hope I meet you again, and we can do after next year when you do a couple of comps, and when your team develop even more than now, we can do this again, and we can chat again on the podcast. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. It was my pleasure. In coming time in Laos, you're welcome.
Anytime, brother. Anytime. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Fight Zone podcast. Subscribe in your podcast app to receive the next episode, where I talk with one of the most feared European grapplers, Christian Popov. Chris is a friend of mine, and he is a math teacher and BJJ black belt. His self-taught brutal heel hook game won him the European Naga belt 5 times and the nickname the Minister of Heel Hook.